We're going to continue to fight systemic racism and to move towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples in this country.
Tonight, the Bloc Quebecois leader raises the death of Joyce Echaquan during question period.
I really was careful not to take any stories that had intellectual knowledge from the communities.
Author Catherine Lafferty tells us about her new book, Land, Water, Sky.
When we first started this, I don't think we realized just how popular it would become, how explosive it would become.
And what started on social media turns into a museum exhibit.
Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. We begin tonight in Ottawa, where today, during question period at the House of Commons, Bloc Quebecois leader Yves-François Blanchet brought up the death of Joyce Echaquan.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you.
La relation du Canada avec les premiers
Canada's
peuples en est une de
relationship with its first peoples is a nation-to-nation relationship that is the responsibility of the Prime Minister. He has to be concerned with the social issues that Indigenous peoples face, and that's where prejudice and racism comes into play. He spoke with the spouse of Ms. Joyce Echaquan and with the chiefs to tackle the social issues that are the direct heritage of the shameful Indian Act and systemic racism in Canada's history. The Right Honourable Prime Minister, I'd like to express my deepest condolences to the family of Joyce Echaquan and to all the family that experienced this loss. Across the country, we were shocked by the video, and I'd like to say that the Indigenous Legion I spoke with were shocked but not surprised. This is a lived reality for all too many Indigenous peoples across our country. They face racism, and that is why on this side of the House we do recognize systemic racism, and we're going to continue to work with this community and with all communities to eliminate systemic racism. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Obviously, we do as well, but it's not up to we're in the Parliament so that he needs to say this, but to Ms. Echaquan or to the chief. Does he realize that the Quebec government contacted the community, met with the chiefs, conducted a public investigation, and is also going to look at recommendations? Does the Prime Minister realize that his condolences do not meet up to the relationship that he should have with Indigenous peoples, but Quebec is doing so? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, first, I'd like to congratulate what I believe to have heard from the Bloc leader, is that there is systemic racism in Quebec. It's important to be there to fight every day against systemic racism, and I'd like to underscore that the Minister of Foreign Affairs was at Joyce's funeral yesterday, and Minister Bennett also has communicated with the community and the family. We're going to continue to fight systemic racism and to move towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples in this country.
A historical wrong is closer to being rectified. The Missanabie Cree First Nation has been awarded $150 million from the federal government, compensation for 114 years of displacement. Most of the displaced have been living in rural areas located in Treaty 9 territory in northern Ontario. A land claim settlement with Ontario in 2010 got them a 39-kilometre squared lot of land, and they received reserve status from the feds in 2018. Missinabi Chief Jason Goche estimates the establishment of a new community within 5 years.
We're going to make sure that we're doing it properly. So we're going to make sure that there's proper water, proper surveying of the lands itself, soil sampling, geotechnics, everything that we need in order to make sure that that what we're doing and where we're doing it is the proper place to do it. So we don't want to run into issues later.
We want to hear what you think about the creation of a brand new First Nation to reconcile Canada's displacement of the Missinabie. Let us know. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. The Innu Nation of Labrador filed a $4 billion claim against Hydro-Quebec for damages caused by Churchill Falls Hydroelectric project. Here's Angel Moore with a few details. Angel?
Thanks, Melissa. The Churchill Falls Hydroelectric project began in 1969. The project consists of a series of dikes along the Churchill River, the longest river in Labrador. The project flooded an area of land larger than Prince Edward Island, destroying Innu burial grounds, caribou migration routes, and ecosystems essential to the Innu traditional way of life. The Innu Nation say their lands were taken illegally and will never be restored. As a result, the Innu Nation is asking for a share of Hydro-Quebec's profits. Hydro-Quebec buys the electricity and transmits it to markets in the United States. It is estimated that Hydro-Quebec has made about $80 billion in profits from the Churchill Falls Generation Station. The lawsuit comes as the Innu Nation is finalizing their land claims agreements with the Government of Canada. Hydro-Quebec has yet to respond to the suit. Back to you, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Angel. The Nunavut Inuit in Labrador have re-elected Johan Lamp with less than 30% of voters going to the polls. President-elect Lamp hopes to improve that voter turnout by encouraging people to get more involved as he represents the Labrador Inuit for another 4 years. It consists of 5 Inuit communities along the northern shore of Labrador and more than 2,500 people. Some of the issues Lamp will continue to face are housing, health services, food security, and fisheries. If your plans for this Thanksgiving weekend are still in limbo, you are not alone. The latest messaging from different levels of government has left Canadians confused about whether their get-togethers are confirmed or altogether cancelled. Federal Health Minister Patty Hajdu is insisting Tuesday that Thanksgiving online is the way to go.
I would like to remind Canadians to consider a virtual celebration this Thanksgiving. As everyone knows, it's been a challenging week, and virtual dinners, although less appealing, rather than an in-person gathering, can make a difference in reducing the spread of COVID.
Time for a break, but still ahead, Land, Water, Sky, a new book by Denende author Catherine Lafferty.
I just want readers, especially young Indigenous readers, to feel very empowered when they're reading this and to know that, you know, these stories still do exist.
Welcome back. In Saskatoon, a small publishing company has been putting out coloring books to help the dialogue with kids about some pretty tough topics. And this year, they're tackling one of the most sensitive issues that kids really need to talk about. Priscilla Wolf has that story.
Rick Langley is the founder and executive director for the Hands-On Outreach and Development Center in Saskatoon. He's been traveling to the Northern First Nation schools for years, giving motivational speeches to youth, and he found a disturbing trend.
We also found that they were really struggling in the communities with some other aspects as well. It wasn't just bullying. It was suicide was paramount. It was just horrific how our communities were being devastated by suicide. And along with that, racism was part of the issues. A lot of them it was just sort of a thing they grew up with and understood from day one, that they took it on the chin like it was just expected instead of, what a tragedy. And so we thought, well, is there some way we could introduce topics on a lighter basis?
That's when Langley decided to develop coloring books for Indigenous youth in grades 1 to 3 to tackle these difficult subjects: bullying, racism, and now suicide. Langley, who raises donations to put out the books, consulted with elders and his illustrator, Glenn Strong, who's Métis.
It was an easy decision, but a hard topic to come up with. And it was the one book we struggled with the longest. We probably spent 3 months just discussing the different ways we can do it gently enough for a grade 1, 2, 3 to understand, but still have enough meat and potatoes to the subject that it was warranted as a conversation piece, or at least a conversation starter.
In early October, Langley and Strong donated and delivered 1,250 coloring books about suicide to the Prince Albert Grand Council to use in their schools. And the council says that elders will work with the kids to discuss this difficult subject.
It's a culturally appropriate tool, and by bringing together like the elder and the youth, and it's going to be in that space that will stimulate discussions on this serious topic.
The coloring books will be used in 27 of the Prince Albert Grand Council schools under the guidance of elders and teachers. Priscilla Wolfe, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
After the success of her memoir, Northern Wildflower, in 2018, Denendeh author Catherine Lafferty is back with a debut novel, which blends old world storytelling and a contemporary twist. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs has that story.
Beautiful. What would it look like if Dene legends, vexatious shapeshifters, walked among us, disguised as humans? Ask Catherine Lafferty, or better yet, read about the unique perspective in her debut novel, Land, Water, Sky. The story goes back and forth through space and time, where a community is stalked by a dark presence, a group of teens face danger during a joyride, and an archaeological site holds a powerful secret.
I really wanted to attribute the story to a lot of our Dene storytelling, and I just want readers, especially young Indigenous readers, to feel very empowered when they're reading this, and to know that, these stories still do exist and they still very much ring true.
The story's inspired by visits to her grandmother's birthplace, Nietzsche Island, near Bushacombe, an hour northwest of Yellowknife. It's here as a teen where she'd participate in an archaeological project about the land and hear old world stories from elders. Carrying on those legends came with protocol and responsibility.
Umoja, he was in the back of my mind when I wrote one of the characters that kind of reflects him in a way in a modern day time, like today. Like, what would Umoja be like today if he were to be alive? And so I really was careful not to take any stories that had intellectual knowledge from the communities.
There was a conflict between the animals and the people about what they wanted to be.
Lafferty consulted with traditional knowledge holders like John B. Zoe, who knew her grandmother and knows the land.
There always needs to be new tellers because times change, and so you got to tell it in such a way that it still has a form of mystery to it.
For Zoe, Land, Water, Sky is purposeful in its ability to teach a younger generation on legends like the Naga, which are still prevalent today.
When she started talking about the ancient conflicts, the brutality of that time, yes, that's the way life was, but it still resonates even till today.
When she randomly opened one of the journals, she came across a picture that made her stop cold. In the photo, a woman stood atop a small mound of snow. She was bundled in furs and carrying an empty cradle board on her back. There was something striking about the woman's expression that made DA look closer.
A virtual talk of the novel will take place October 15th. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Can't wait to read that. Well, it's time for another break, but we've got more still ahead, including a museum exhibit dedicated to COVID masks.
There's a lot of healing that's going on in the creation of this artwork, and we're just continuing to do what we do to heal each other.
Welcome back. They say Yellowknife is the best place in the world to view the Aurora Borealis, also known as the Northern Lights. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs snapped a few beauties to share with you, our much-loved viewers. With the long and clear winter nights, mid-November to the beginning of April tend to be the best times of year for good viewing. Just to let you know, your photo of the day can be our photo of the day. Send us what you got. You can email your shot to share@aptn.ca. We'll do our best to get them on the air as a new feature on your APTN National newscast. Well, now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast.
Starting on the East Coast, we got 12-inch showers for Fredericton, 15-inch showers for St. John's. La Grande River, snow and 3 degrees. Same with Inukjuak, Kuujjuaq, sunny and 3 degrees. Sept-Îles, 11-inch showers. Quebec City, sunshine and 9 degrees. 17 and sunny for London and 10 in cloud in North Bay. Mix of sun and cloud and 10 for Sioux Lookout, Thunder Bay, sunny and 13. Norway House, 7 in showers. Puckatawagan, rain and 5 degrees. 16 in sunshine for Winnipeg, 19 in sunny for Brandon. 22 in sunshine for Regina and Estevan, 19 in sunny for Saskatoon. 7 in showers for Buffalo Narrows, 14 in showers for Meadow Lake. Up to northern Alberta, we got showers and 8 degrees for High Level, 7 and showers for Fort McMurray. 14 in rain for Edmonton, 26s for Medicine Hat and Lethbridge. Campbell River, 16 with a mix of sun and cloud. Quesnel, showers and 11 degrees. 9 and sunny for Fort Nelson, 8 and showers for Prince George and Smithers. Dawson City, 7 and sunny skies, 5 and sunny for Whitehorse. Wrigley, 5 and a mix of sun and cloud. Showers for Norman Wells and 5 degrees. Inuvik and Fort McPherson, snow and 2 degrees. Tuktoyaktuk, 1 in snow. New Yacht, 0 and snow. Whale Cove, 0 and snow. Igloolik, -1 with a mix of sun and cloud. -3 and a mix of sun and cloud for Tallyoak.
During the pandemic, many artists have spent their extra spare time being creative. Now, a museum in Alberta has been collecting some of that artwork done by those artists and is showcasing Indigenous culture COVID-19 style. Tamara Pimentel has that story.
This is a space that connects people from all over the country, a record of different pandemic experiences expressed through traditional art. This collection of masks at the White Museum in Banff is called Breathe. It started off as a social media group when the world was hit with COVID-19.
When we first started this, I don't think we realized just how popular it would become, how explosive it would become. I mean, it's almost like the virus, itself, and that it's imitating life. And the way life works.
Natalie Burton and Lisa Shepard are the two Métis artists who started Breathe to connect Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists.
There's a lot of healing that's going on in the creation of this artwork, and we're just continuing to do what we do to heal each other in the best way that we know how in this modern day, with what we're dealing with 21st century pandemic.
From seal skin to birch bark biting to moose hair tufting, the Breathe exhibit showcases traditional artwork that's been around for generations. But this is the first time the techniques are used to make these types of masks.
Masks aren't part of our culture historically. We beaded everything. We beaded leggings, moccasins, jackets, vests, hats. This is brand new. We've never had the occasion to bead a mask, but this is the time that we're living in now, and we're still here. The work that we're doing is still vital.
The Breathe exhibit will be opened at the White Museum until mid-January. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Banff.
So many talented artists among us. Today was the premiere episode of a brand new season of In Focus. Our topic today was coping with COVID, now in its 8th month with no end in sight. So how to stay mentally well during the winter while we're isolating or distancing on top of fears of this virus. We checked in with our relatives at the hard-hit Navajo Nation as ceremonies have started again there, although much differently. And we got a glimpse of the economic realities for Indigenous businesses. Take a look.
You might say First Nations leadership for First Nations, and now we're moving into a phase First Nations leadership for all. And that's a very important statement for you to consider, that we've always been leaders, but we've maybe never had the chance to demonstrate that, our skills and our history. And as you know, Melissa, pandemics and epidemics have occurred for 500 years in our communities as a consequence of colonization. immunization, and people bringing in various viruses. This is not unknown to us, even though historically very few might not have seen a pandemic. This is a known thing for our communities across Canada.
You know, not just traditional ceremony, anything that goes with gathering, a birthday party, family getting together and having like activities, gathering, and ceremonial great gathering, and everything was all shut down, closed. And just about 2 weeks ago, the president of the Innu Nation gave a notice and sent out like email or post on the internet to go ahead and start ceremonies with only 5 people in the Hogan in sight. It's just like saying like only 20% of the people can attend. And be careful, wash, and all of that. So
when we look at the Indigenous businesses, I mean, they've been affected very much like the rest of the general public businesses. But one of the things are that we want to ensure that as things are starting to move forward, I know that COVID has shuttered a lot of businesses. We don't have the exact stats right now on Indigenous businesses, but they've been affected. I mean, 91% have said that the COVID has really affected their businesses. But I mean, as we start moving forward, we want to ensure that our businesses are not left behind. I mean, for so many years, we were left behind. We have been making strides recently, and we can't let COVID stop the strides that we have been making within Canada.
The Dene Nation has issued eviction notices to some who've parked their houseboats on their territory. Why and what happens next? Take a look.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Mort-Jacobs in Sambake, Northwest Territories. If you've ever visited Yellowknife, you may recognize the houseboats behind me. But did you know that some occupy the land and water within the Yellowknife's Dene traditional Chief Dry Geese asserted community area? There are 3 houseboats between Dilo and Detta shoreline, along with 2 abandoned barges, all of which received eviction notices this week. The Yellowknife's Dene First Nation are currently negotiating that boundary with the city of Yellowknife, and are also part of the Acacho First Nation land claim with the federal and territorial government. APTN National News is following that story. Now back to Winnipeg headquarters.
Thanks, Charlotte. Stargazers are getting a special treat this week as Mars is shining its brightest in years. According to NASA, the red planet reached its closest approach last night, but should be viewable for the next few days in the southern night sky. Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield is sharing this image of Mars over the Toronto skyline. Mars won't be this close again until December 2022. We're all out of time for your midweek news. Thanks for joining us. And if you missed today's In Focus talking about how all things COVID, you can download that as a podcast at aptnnews.ca/podcast. There's a whole catalog of episodes in there for you to catch up on. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night, and I leave you with an image outside of Manitoba's legislature today taking aim at child welfare funding in this province.